We've got the long edge of the sword and the short edge of the sword. Let's talk today about how the short edge has big impact on the cutting patterns and therefore all of the master cuts of the German longsword. Jeff Tsai, Forte Swordplay. So a little bit under the weather today, sorry if I'm a little sniffly. Today, what I want to talk about is something that we've talked about a while ago, but not for some time. So edges, the edges of the sword. So in the German tradition, they refer to these two edges as the long edge associated with long point. So when you're kind of stretched out to your longest distance and you're striking from above, generally hitting with this edge. And then short edge is associated with these, not just one, but two positions. Short edge with uncrossed hands, short edge with crossed hands. And you can see that there's actually definitely a range difference between these two things. And that's one of the things we've talked about before. Here, this is my shortest distance. Here's a longer distance with the short edge. And then of course, that's the longest distance. So, I in previous videos, I've kind of referred to this as the concept of three edges, right? So long, short edge, and then shortest edge, really, between the uncrossed hands and the crossed hands. So there's that general concept, but then, okay, we spent a lot of time really thinking about not just, the different edges, but also these different configurations of cutting patterns. So one of the things we're going to keep coming back to is this idea that the master cuts and really all of the techniques in the German tradition really are tied to the mechanics of cutting patterns, right? So by studying all of the different permutations of the cutting patterns, you can effectively sort of rederive or stumble over all of the master cuts in one way or the other. And so one of the big questions is, well, what happens? All of these patterns that we've done through all the fundamentals recently, we generally have been doing this looking at them from striking from the long edge specifically. So we've got half cuts, we've got full cuts, we've got running off or ablaufen, and then we also have taking ab or abnehmen, okay? So all of these being done with that long edge. So can we simply insert a short edge for all of them? And the answer is yes, but you can't use a short edge, you can't use both of the short edges in every instance. In fact, usually for every cut, there is generally one short edge that goes with it, not two. In fact, let me be specific, for every cutting pattern, there's generally one short edge that fits it and not two. And so let's look at all of these, right? So let's start with the very simplest one in terms of the cutting X, right? So when I'm doing these full cuts, okay, right, so I want to preserve this pattern. Okay, so now which of the short edges allows me to do this? Okay, so here, this is just experimentation. Go and actually do this sort of thought experiment yourself. So if I want to maintain the X, if I try to do this, I will find I can't do that without having to go from uncrossed hands to crossed hands. However, if I just start with crossed hands, all of a sudden, this particular set of short edges does work and actually give me the cutting X, okay? So again, if I try the other way, oh, can't do it, oh, can't do it, but this one does work. So notice one set of the short edges goes with that particular pattern. Okay, let's look at another one. Running off, right here, okay? Right, so here's the long edge version. Again, let's try going this way. From here, I want to run off, but I can't, right? But if I use this one, this fits. So again, it's one-to-one in terms of for every cutting pattern, there's sort of like one long edge and one short edge in general that actually fits. Let's kind of complete this with taking a look at the half cuts. Because these are so truncated, you can actually get both of these to work, although one is definitely, this is the one that's pretty awkward. The one that is much more natural is this one, okay? So again, even if you could kind of do both, there's one that's definitely sort of more natural for it. And then the last one that we haven't looked at is the running off. No, I'm sorry, the taking off, right? So if I'm doing this on one side, this on the other side. So again, this allows me to do that pretty well. This also allows me to do it pretty well. So this is another one where you can kind of do both, but they have sort of like different impacts. So in general, all of these different patterns, there's a long edge kind of equivalent of all of those different things, and then a short edge, generally single dominant version that will actually fit with both. And so what's the impact? All right, so let's think about crump actually. If we're looking at crump as this pattern, long edge, what's interesting is that, all right, can I do short edge on this? And I can. Short edge, short edge, short edge, short edge. If I try to do the other one, again, we've already kind of talked about this, doesn't really work on that side, really doesn't work that way if we're going to actually do the running off bit. So whether you like doing this kind of crump or, you know, this very sideways crump, they are all part of that same shape related to that running off. And so again, you can do long edge, both sides, short edge, both sides, although it's a specific short edge on each side. And so kind of coming back to what's written about crump, when you look at all the literature, if your sort of headcanon about crump is that you're doing a short edge, let me see, so long edge on this side, short edge on this side, you can certainly do that, but you can definitely still do long and long or short and short. Okay, so when you think about this stuff, it's super valuable from my experience to actually look at all the possible different permutations and not be assuming that what's written are the only permutations that are possible or even advised. What we found kind of doing this analysis is that by actually studying all the permutations, only then can we really have a better idea of judging for ourselves if what's written in the documentation actually represents probably more preference, or if they're just sampled examples and there's examples that people have not actually talked about. So that's it for today. Just a little quick short video kind of tying the relationship between the long and the two short edges to all of the different cutting patterns from above. And if you think about it, you know, we've only done it from above. We also have things like this figure 8 pattern that becomes really important for things like Aufstreichen, and then just Unterhau related patterns as well, which we have not explored yet, but we'll get back to. So that's it for today. Just again, taking a look at the relationship between short edge and long edge and the impact on at least the cutting patterns from above. So see you in the next video.